Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Real Talk. Tonight, we are going to be talking about a real issue about real people with real talk from all of us. It is your regular cast this evening. Alicia is here, Pam is here, Zen is here, and I am here. I'll be your moderator this evening. And tonight, we're going to be talking about transfer addiction. We're going to be talking about probably all avenues of it, but focusing a lot on weight loss and things that happen as we lose weight because we are in the weight loss community. I wanted to tell you guys, I did a little bit of research this evening, actually today, as I know some of you have also, and I was surprised because when I looked up transfer addiction, I didn't think it was going to go so much to being tied to weight loss surgery patients. So I think it's really neat that we have two people here on the cast that have had weight loss surgery. That's Alicia RNY, and then with the VSG. And then Pam and I have not had weight loss surgery, and we're just on our own health journeys. So it's going to be interesting to see the mix in the feelings and how we each feel about these articles or things that we came out. If at any time any of the cast want to chime in, ask a question of the other cast, or give feedbacks or opinions on things that are being said, let's make sure we do that so that we have great interaction for the viewers tonight. To you, the viewers, feel free to chime in with your viewpoints, your opinions. Any questions that you may have, we will try to get to. If you put them in the comment section, I'll be monitoring that as much as I can, and we'll get as much of that shared on the air as possible tonight. So the first thing I want to do, as I got into this, I'm going to read a little bit of something, and then I'm going to ask you guys a personal question, and from there we can just get deep into the conversation, okay? I was reading an article, and it was talking about weight loss surgery patients having to do with they stop the overeating but wind up acquiring new compulsive disorders such as alcoholism, gambling, addictions, and compulsive shopping. There was, in the study, it said there wasn't a lot that went to drug use, but it did name specifically the others with minor people getting addicted to drugs. So it said some bariatric surgery centers say that they are now starting to counsel patients about this issue because they've seen it. I have a question for you guys in a second, but the thing that I thought was amazing was the American Society for Bariatric Surgery estimated that only 5% of bariatric surgery patients develop a new compulsive behavior after surgery. And then the U.S. Bariatrics therapist that works for U.S. Bariatrics, which is a surgery center who has several surgery centers out of Orlando, Florida, they estimated that it was roughly 20% of patients that acquired new addictive behaviors. And then psychologists just speaking at, not for, at the American Society of Bariatric Surgery Association cited data suggesting roughly 30% of people that have had surgery struggle with addictive behaviors after surgery. So the thing I found amazing there was it went 5, 20, 30. And the ones that said 5%, obviously, this is a guy who's in charge of the American Society for Bariatrics. He really can't, in my opinion, come out too much because he probably won't hold that position very long if he comes out with a number that's alarming. And then people that worked but didn't do the surgeries but were the therapists for the U.S. Bariatric surgery centers in all over Florida, but especially based out of Orlando, they were a little bit more free, but they still work for these doctors, so they were very cautious also in what they were saying. You could tell by the article. And then, of course, someone who had no ties but was speaking at the American Society for Bariatric Surgery Association, an event that was speaking at, she put data at 30%. And she obviously was a guest speaker, and she had no way of losing her job. So I just thought it was amazing how someone that is being paid will say one thing, and someone who may be being paid to be a guest but isn't going to lose her job or get chastised for saying something has a very high, a lot more alarming rate. So did you guys find articles or share whatever you want to share about that particular information that I just covered?
Well, I definitely read a few articles, on it, as I have prior. And it did talk to switching substances. Instead of calling it transfer addiction, a lot of them call it addiction transfer. And and frankly, from what I can see, it seems to be like, to me, a lot of people had addiction prior to weight loss surgery or weight loss journey. And of course, that can be debated, but that's my opinion from reading these articles, you know, that this wasn't probably the first time that that door opened for a lot of people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alicia?
Well, I mean, I've read about it, and I've seen a lot of, I think just being in the community, I've seen a lot of, addictions once you can't, either if you can't, or, you are on a weight loss journey, and people are just, we obviously have an addiction. That's why, and if we can't use food as an addiction, we use something else as an addiction.
Good point. Pam, do you want to weigh in, or?
I pretty much agree with everyone else has said, but yeah, it's like you've already have this kind of door open, like what Zen said, and maybe you're not a food addict, but when you're trying to lose weight and become more healthy and stuff like that, I think it's very easy to kind of switch that addict behavior over to something else to comfort you and to make you feel better, because, yeah, that's it.
Okay, so the question that I had for you guys that I wrote down, and again, we're just throwing this out there and we're talking about it because we are a weight loss community and we do have surgery and non-surgery people within the community. Why do you guys think, at least from the studies, the majority of the studies that you will see online, and just in general from viewing the community, why do you think that the transfer addiction, or like Zen said, addiction transfer, which maybe they got tired of the word transfer addiction and switched it to addiction transfer, or they just switched the word, so I really don't think it's any different, but why do you guys think it has hit the weight loss surgery community harder than a traditional weight loss person or community or that kind of thing? Let's start with Alicia. Alicia, why don't you weigh in on why do you think, or if you do, if you don't, then you don't.
Yeah. No, I think it is more like, I personally feel it's more of an issue for people who've had weight loss surgery, just because we physically cannot use food or binge like we used to. I hear a lot of people say, it's a shame when I can't even binge properly, and stuff. So it's like, use that. You can't use food. You can't, you have to find a different addiction to use and stuff. But you physically, our stomachs are so small that we physically cannot, use that as an addiction. So we go to other things. And I think that like someone who hasn't had surgery, it is possible to binge or have that addiction, and you may say, okay, I haven't done this in so long, but then that is possible. Like, that leaves the door open for people who haven't had surgery, but like for me, it's physically impossible for me to do that.
Right, you can't use food as a crutch anymore, so you go do something else. Ben, what about you?
I'm going to come back to, again, the question was, Rob, as you stated, why do you think that it hits the weight loss surgery community harder?
Yeah.
And I want to say again that I personally think that it isn't just weight loss surgery people who have.
And no one said it was just weight loss surgery.
No, I'm bringing it back to the fact that I think that so many people have addictions, whether they're under the radar addictions, which a lot of them are: a sex addiction, gambling addiction, even food addiction, work addiction. All those things are kind of under the radar. You don't need to go check yourself into a substance abuse clinic for those things. And I think that those addictions, including food, may have or are present with a lot of people. And it just so happens that food, was a main addiction that the person, the addict, food addict, whatever, could not overcome on their own, or they felt that they chose to save their life by having weight loss surgery. And I think that it's just tracked better on weight loss patients because they have a group to look at. It's a group that they can zero in on and say, oh, okay, I can look at these people with RNY, lap band, VSG, you name it, weight loss surgery, and I can actually target them and study this group of people that I can put my hands on, because everybody else, it's too big of a pot to grab a hold of to try to do research on. That's my feeling, and I don't think that there's any particular reason. I think Alicia made a good point about, that she cannot physically binge. But I still think that even after weight loss surgery, a person can continue to overeat. They can eat all their weight back on. So maybe they can't binge in the traditional sense of binging, but they can continue to overeat if they can't get control, however you want to say it. And, yeah, that's my thought on it.
And Pam, what about you? I'll tell mine while Pam's doing her thing. I think that a lot of it is, I personally think it's more relevant or out there in the weight loss surgery community, and I do think it's because that crutch of being able to eat the food is gone. And when you are somebody who has an addiction, unless you get help for it, I think your immediate reaction is to transfer it to something else. I think that alcohol is an easy thing for people to transfer to. Most people don't want the shame of becoming a drug addict. They don't have the financial money to spend that kind of stuff. It is the same thing with gambling. Gambling is an expensive. Shopping is an expensive addiction to transfer to. And if people don't have those monies, then they're not able to really get the satisfaction the way they want unless they're running up huge amounts of debt. So I think what happens with someone who loses weight the traditional way is you're both right, you can still binge on that food. You can still get that satisfaction, and you physically can take that food in and get that pleasure from it, whereas somebody who doesn't, that's had weight loss surgery, it doesn't necessarily mean they're drunk, but I think a lot of them, from the studies that I read, and from some of what we see within the community, a lot of people will turn to drinking. And there was one lady that specifically said, hey, when you can't eat chicken, you can drink wine, right? So it just goes to show, when you can't eat the food and you can't take it in, you replace that. And one of the cheapest, easiest ways is with booze, because the high for somebody that's had those surgeries comes very quickly, and they also sober up very quickly. So it's like almost that immediate high and then down quickly, not, the whole process that it takes for someone else. So that's my thought behind it. What about you, Pam?
I agree with what everyone has said, and what Alicia said about weight loss surgery patients not being able to physically actually binge eat and overeat. I have not had weight loss surgery, but I continue that bingy pattern or whatever because I'm able to. I don't want to, but I do it. I wouldn't say that I have like a transfer addiction, but I can definitely see a change in myself in the last month or so with like wanting to drink specifically, which is not something I normally do. But yeah, I can see that being a bigger problem for weight loss surgery patients.
Okay. We have some people weighing in. Sizzle this. Michael said that it says, I do believe it's a little bit higher percentage myself. He also said, I do believe a lot of people replace one excessive compulsive thing for another. And I think that's normal, because usually when you have an addiction, you have to get help for it and work on it until you can move on. And when something happens and you just can't do it anymore, then I think you have to immediately replace that. You don't have to, but I think a lot of people do because they don't know anything else, would be my thought process on it. So does anyone have a question or anything, panel-wise?
I had a question.
Go ahead.
I wanted to ask the panel, what common things do you notice about transfer addictions? And specifically, I would say let's just put this to the community. What have you noticed about specific common things, common themes? Other than what substance is being abused? I mean, is it social or, you know, what are your thoughts on that?
Okay, and go ahead, Alicia.
Oh no, I was gonna say, I think that when people get into social, you know, gatherings, I do think, like, if you're looking at, especially like alcohol, you know, that to me is one that always comes up. Like, I feel like the alcohol always comes up, you know, and it's, for me, I feel like social gatherings, especially, you know, within the weight loss surgery community, there's a lot of social gatherings, you know, a lot of meet and greets and get-togethers, and I personally don't drink at all, and I see people, they're just like, they don't eat, but they drink one after another after another after another, you know, and they look at me like, you know, I've been to a few, and they look at me and they're like, have a drink. And I'm like, no, I don't drink. Just one sip. No, I don't drink. Just here, taste mine. No, I don't drink. Like, it's like I don't do that, you know, but it's like they said, yeah, I've lost this, and I don't, you know, I don't eat that, and I don't eat this, but I can throw down on some alcohol, you know. That's just one huge one that I've seen. Huge.
Well, and I personally think it's easy to, when we get together as a group, or even when it's family, or like the meet and greets, which I haven't been to any, but you can see, you know, people within the community, none of us got here sitting overweight from gambling too much. Nobody got here from drinking too much booze. Nobody got here from being addicted to shopping. We got here from eating food, or something got us to this massive amount of weight that put us here in this community. So obviously our goal is going to be to get away from food. And a lot of times when you go to events and functions and stuff and you're hanging out with people, a lot of that, and the old us would wrap that around food. What's going to be there to eat? Oh, I can't wait. I hope they have a bunch of stuff. I'm going to have some of this and some of this. And now when you go to those things, you try to avoid the food. So what's the next thing you go to? You go to drinking. Well, who wants to drink a bunch of water? I mean, when there's other options available, I mean, in all seriousness. So it's a way that loosens people up a little bit, and I think they just fall into the habit of doing it. I don't necessarily think that people that are obese or overweight, like myself, because I never did this when I was big, when I would go out, I didn't not drink. I still drank. So I wouldn't be drinking now to make up for time past. There may be some people that are doing that, but that wouldn't be my case. I do drink occasionally. I drink in moderation. I mean, I've had times where I've had too much to drink. We all have. But as a general rule, I'm not a drinker. I would drink if I went out. I would drink at a special occasion. But I'm not someone that has glasses of wine here and there. And I don't think there's nothing wrong with it for people that do. It's totally to one's discretion according to their health or what they're, quote, allowed to do under whatever method they're following. Pam?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Ben, repeat the question for her.
My question was, what common things do you notice about transfer addiction, quote unquote, in the community? It could be anything.
Other than the alcohol, because I have seen that, and I completely agree with what Lisa and Rob said. I guess the only other thing that I can really think of is maybe excessively exercising, like to an extreme. That's really the only thing I can think of that I've seen.
I see that in the community. Zen, are you going to answer your own question for us?
Yeah, I'll answer the question.
Sure.
I wanted to comment and say that the exercising, yes, I think that some people probably would be what could be considered, you know, compulsive exercisers. Mm-hmm. Including myself at certain points. I think that I was compulsively doing it, and I had people call me out on it. And so I do think about it now. I think of it as something I like to do. So I think it's one of the better transfer addictions that a person can have, as long as it's not like wearing your joints and bones and, you know, punishing your body to extremes. In addition to that, of course, I've noticed the alcohol. I noticed that starting at my first meet and greet. I was rather surprised, actually, at first. But when you think about it logically, social events are fun, and you're in a casino or someplace like that. I mean, that is the place to drink if you're going to drink, and be with friends and have fun. There's nothing wrong with that, but I think that some people probably do carry it to excess, and what happens behind their closed door, only they know. But, the bottom line is that there can be complications from too much alcohol, from too much, wrong kinds of food, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, those are just some of the things I had noticed, too. Oh, in addition, of course, to my favorite one, which is shopping. I see that there are some people that transfer it to shopping, but I think that maybe they were shopaholics prior to them getting thin and being able to buy clothes. They might have bought handbags, they might have bought shoes, they might have bought jewelry. They could still be a QVC addict without buying clothes for themselves. So, and any other kind of shopping addict, that makeup, you name it. There's a gazillion things that you could shop for, and I think that that one can also be healthy, in a way that, as long as it's not, running it till your card is declined, stuff like that.
I think the other thing I wanted to ask, and I think Pam answered this just through speaking about it, but I don't know if so the rest of us did. Do you guys feel like you have or currently have or had a addiction other than to food or overeating or binging and things like that, to any other thing that you can think of that you would consider an addiction? And everybody's varies on that, because there was one lady I read an article who believed that addiction can sometimes be as simple as being addicted to a certain food, like a certain cereal or a certain frozen yogurt that you have to have all the time. So that would be, but not necessarily be addicted to food. So let's start with Alicia. Alicia, do you feel that you had in the past, other than food, addictions or anything now that you feel like is an addiction to you?
Yes.
Okay.
No, I have. I know people think I'm addicted to Hello Kitty, and I guess I am in a way, but it's like, I feel like it's a fun, healthy addiction, It's fun. Like, it's nothing that I spend too much money on. A lot of stuff I get, it's secondhand stuff or passed down to me or whatever. But I've had since my surgery, I've had a couple of other addictions. I have had on and off an addiction to makeup, to like excessively buying makeup, and to the point where it's like a couple months ago I had to realize that I only have one face, and the amount of makeup I have, I could never use I just can't. So I actually started getting rid of some of it. But the other addiction I have was crocheting. Not really crocheting, but buying. So I guess it has to do with shopping. All this has to do with shopping, because just getting yarn, like a lot of yarn and different yarn and stuff. So I have had. I guess that would all come down to shopping, right?
So, Alicia, what about, let me ask you about an addiction that, from watching videos, I think you may have. What about all the cups? You seem to have the biggest collection of,
oh my gosh,
shaker cup, lid cup, fancy blinking cups. You seem to have an addiction to cups. So
this is my newest one, by the way, just so you know.
Yeah. I just thought that was something that you like to buy. Do you just see it and then say, oh, I gotta have it?
I do. I see it and I'm like, oh, that's stupid cute. And so I'm like, I have to have it. Like, I have to have it. And then I go into my cabinet and I'm like literally went in there yesterday and I was like, holy crap. Like, I didn't even realize. And the crazy thing is that I went through and got rid of like half my cups that I had. And now it's like they're piled up again. Like, I I like this is crazy, but like I sometimes don't even remember buying half the cups that I have. You know, I just don't remember it, and I'm like, how did I not remember I had this one? And yeah, it's just I see it and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to have it. It's so cute. I have to have it. Or I can use this one for my coffee, this one for my water, this one, and then yeah.
Then what about you?
My current addictions are buying gym clothes. I love to buy gym clothes. I love to buy makeup, but I don't buy that in excess. But I think it's something that always draws my focus. Okay, let me go to Sephora and just walk around. I like hair products. I like to go and walk around, and I just like to check everything out. And I find myself like killing time just reading labels and stuff like that. I also like thrifting. When I'm on one of my thrifting, I guess what I want to call it, like circuits, I'll just do that for a while, and then I'll like stop. Even if I don't buy anything, I don't find anything I like, I still like the act of looking. Okay, so yeah, and if I find stuff, I like to buy it too. And my other addiction would be, I guess, going to the gym and spending time trying to make myself feel like I'm really moving forward. And I think that it's something I've kind of like programmed myself to do. That if I don't go, I start feeling, like that compulsion. That says you need to go, you need to go, you need to go, because otherwise you're not moving forward. You're not moving forward. So I have this little voice, and I kind of think it's a good thing, but maybe it isn't.
Okay, and Pam, I know you said one thing, but will you just share again? Because we've had a lot of people join since then.
Sure. I don't think I necessarily have an addiction, but I do feel like I have some that are starting. And like one of them is the drinking thing, and I barely ever drink. I mean, maybe like once a year or something like that. But in the last 4 to 6 weeks or whatever, I've had some drinks, quite a few, and I'm not gonna let it become a problem or whatever. But I'm seeing that I'm starting to do this, which is strange. But there's that, and then I've also been kind of compulsively cleaning my house, which I didn't really think about. Not that I'm ever like a dirty person or whatever, but I've been vacuuming to an extreme, so that just kind of popped in my brain. And I'm going to steal Alicia's answer, and yes, the crochet thing. I just started learning how to crochet like 2 weeks ago, and I have bought 28, what are they called?
Bundle.
Of yarn. 28. And they're not even for one project. They're just random yarns, and yeah, so the yarn. That's it.
For me, with that question, I obviously used to be addicted to food and still am, and am a person that could binge, because I'm not, I haven't had surgery or anything, so it would be something that I could easily physically do. Before I started the weight loss journey, I addicted myself with work. I threw myself into my work, and a lot of it happened because I was overweight so much, and I was big, and I thought, if I can become the best at what my trade is, what I do, then people will overlook my weight and not judge me on my weight. So I really focused hard, working many, many hours. And I work usually 8 to 5, okay? But I was working many, many hours to compensate, to do all kinds of things. And I thought, well, this way people won't judge me or realize, hey, this guy may be fat, but he can do the job. And I have more of a desk job, but it's very mentally involved. And so I did that. And since 2005 to 2013, the office that I manage has been Office of the Year for every year. So we'll wait and see what comes out for 2014. But in 2013, my office finished first in the nation for sales processed by units, and that's home sold and 3rd in the world. So I was very excited to have that. But the thing being is, I work 8 to 5 now. I go in and what doesn't get done during that time stays. Now, if I have to stay after to get a house closed for somebody so family can get it, I'm going to stay. But I don't stay unless there's something there demanding me to stay, because that work will be there the next day. And I actually started that in January of 2011. I said enough is enough. I can't throw myself into all this work. And, you know, people are either going to accept me for who I am, and that's just pretty much how I do it now. So I don't feel currently, other than food, that I have an addiction to things, and I'm working on my addiction for food. I don't overspend money. I don't overshop. I don't do those things. That's just not my style. So, okay. Do any of you guys have a question?
Well, I kind of do. I have a observation, and I wanted to talk to you guys about. And you know, it doesn't have to do. Actually, I don't think it has to do with anyone who's necessarily had, you know, weight loss surgery or not had weight loss surgery. Maybe it could be anyone, but you know, I notice that a lot of times we, like me, I signed up for my first 5K in March, and so I was wondering about, what do you guys think about, you know, people that start doing these races? Do you think that it's an addiction, you know, for them to do these races?
Okay.
I'm curious of your thoughts.
We're going to get to the answers, but before we go to that, to give everyone a chance to think, I want to let you guys know what's coming in. Gastric Rose is here. Shadow Girl 1 is here. She said, I'd agree. I haven't had surgery, but when I'm not binging on food, I shop for clothing, jewelry, makeup, artwork, home accessories, you name it, I bought it. Lindsay Cook is watching. Tiffany's Journey is here. Sizzle This Michael's here. Busy Mommy Collins is here. Diana Raw Girl is here. She said she's taking her laptop and she's going to get it back. Okay? And then she said, Rob, you're looking great. And then it says, man, you lose weight way quicker than women. Which, that's a topic that's going to be on a show tomorrow that I'm going to be on, but we'll talk about that later if Alicia lets us. Alicia's here. No, I'm just kidding. You left a comment in the section. But those are the people that are here that have commented. You guys weigh in with questions if you have one. Share your viewpoints and opinions. We'll share those on the air. So let's answer the question that Alicia had, because it is something that you notice within the weight loss community big time. Everybody wants to become a runner, or a lot of people do. So let's start with Pam. Pam, you've had time to think, so don't act like I'm putting you on the spot, girl.
Oh, no. This one's right up my alley.
Okay, so speak.
I don't know if everyone here knows this or not, but at the beginning of this year, I decided on a whim that I'm going to do a race every month this year. I've done one race in my life. It was a 15K. It was over a year ago. But I guess maybe that's one of my addictions that I'm starting to have that I just didn't even think to mention. But I think it's actually 16 races total that I'm doing this year. 2 half marathons, a bunch of 5Ks, and a 10K. And I don't know what to say about it other than I'm going through a really shitty, difficult time, and it's going to help me to, you know, get my mind off things. So I guess it's going to become a little bit of a transfer addiction. So there you go, I have one. Yay. Okay, moving on.
So why do you think, though, it's so prevalent within the weight loss? Why do you think that's a bandwagon that so many people choose to jump on?
I don't know. It's like completing a 5K, like it's like an accomplishment. It's something a lot of people never think that they would ever be able to do. People are like, oh, I'm not a professional runner. But you don't have to be a professional runner. You can be a beginner and you can complete a 5K. And it's like, it makes you feel good. It's like an accomplishment. But also, if you're on a weight loss journey, it's training for it, and actually doing it and completing it is going to help you know, become more healthy and become more active. So I don't know. I mean, you can just walk a 5K, but it's like, it's just more special that you're actually signing up to do it and completing it. I don't know.
Okay, fair enough. Zen, what about you?
As far as the running, let's see. My take is yes, that some people I do think it is a huge transfer addiction. Not to say that it's unhealthy, but I think that it gives them something to focus on, maybe something they can do with their family or older kids, that they can get out there and they can get everybody moving and get up off their ass, and and a commitment. It's a time commitment and it's an energy commitment. So it becomes, in my opinion, somewhat of an addiction. I think that some people do it once, some people do multiple races, and some people go throw themselves full on into it where it becomes like they think and breathe and everything running. I mean, it's just all varying degrees of that, just like any other form of fitness, whether it's weightlifting or Zumba. You know what I mean? It's the same thing, only but we're just speaking about running, so I'll just stick to the subject. I know I digress. So yeah, I do think that it can be a huge transfer addiction, and again, also very normal.
But also, why do you think, I'm going to ask the same question I asked him, why do you think that's a lot of people versus taking up tennis or racquetball or riding a bike for 25 miles or any of the other things? Why do so many people do the couch to 5K, do the running? Why do you think that is such a big thing within the weight loss community? It just seems to be the go-to.
Yeah, I think my opinion would be that I think that it has to do with the way that it's hyped. It's talked about a lot. It's discussed, and then people talk about it, and their friends talk about it, and maybe one friend is doing it, or and they say, oh, well, you can start with this couch to 5K, and you can get your ass up and start moving along a schedule, and you're going to be able to gradually get there. And so then maybe a couple of people decide to do it together or inspire each other in their own city to do it alone with their family or whatever. I think that it's kind of like you said, if it's a bandwagon that people jump on, just like doing a tag or something like that. And I think if certain people took up tennis and it was like, hey, and that was what was talked about, then that could be possibly something else as well. Boo.
Okay. I'm going to answer the question, and then we'll go to Alicia because it was her question. I think it's an easy thing for people to get involved in. And when I was in high school, I don't know what they do anymore, but that was one thing we always had to do. We always had to run laps, and you were constantly threatened that if you didn't get it done by a certain time, everybody had to run more. And that was something that obese people and people that were heavy absolutely hated. Now, when I was in high school, I wasn't big, okay? I was very small. So it was different for me, but I seen that my friends that were obese or morbidly obese, obviously the running was a struggle for them, and they also did not like swimming. And I think it becomes to the point where when you get that, you get going, and then you can do it. It's something you want to prove that you couldn't do back in the day. I couldn't do that back in the day, but I can do it now, and I'm going to prove it. I'm going to do these. I'm not saying everybody, but I think it's an easy thing to pick up. It's something you can do by yourself. If I'm going to play tennis, unless I'm going to go hit it against the wall, like at racquetball or something, I need somebody there. So I think running is an easy thing to get out of the house, go do. If you're a parent, it gives you a chance to get away from everybody for a little bit, and just have some time to yourself, where you don't have to get in your car and drive somewhere. I can't play tennis at my house if I live in a house. You just put your shoes on and you go, and you can prove something and do something that you couldn't do before. That's kind of what my thought process on it is. Alicia?
Yeah, I see a lot of people, like many people, especially, I'm going to go back to the weight loss surgery community, and especially, and they sign up for, so it's like constant. I'm doing this race and this race and this race, and I'm like, wow, and I think it has to do with, when we got so big, we feel like failures. you know, and so I feel like to be able to accomplish a race or, you know, whether it's walking or running or whatever, and just to cross that finish line, and I do feel like no matter how long it takes, because I know a lot of people have said to me, no matter how long it takes, you know, just know that you won, you know, just by signing up and just by going, and it doesn't matter. And you know, and it's like, I guess it's that accomplishment that we feel like, you know, yeah, we can go and we can run and we can get that instant gratification of that we did it. I think that to me, that's what I see, you know. And the reason this came up is that, you know, my good friend Pam over here, I know that has signed up. She said she's doing many races this year. 16.
At least.
Sweet
Maybe more.
16.
Maybe more, you know, and it's just, I was like, this girl crazy, okay? She is crazy. But we already knew that, you know.
Right.
She's obsessive about Taco Bell, and now she's obsessive about racing. So, you know, but I think it's like one of those things. I think it's hard for us to get that instant gratification, you know, and stuff. And I think that this is something that, yeah, it could be too much of an addiction sometimes, and it may not be safe, but at the same time, it might be.
Okay, Pam, I'm going to come to you in a second for a question for the panel because I don't want to leave you out tonight. But I'm going to give you time because I'm going to read some comments. Okay?
Okay.
So start thinking of something. Okay, Shadow Girl 1 said, I'm signing up for several 5Ks this year, all fun themed ones. And I am also planning on attending some concerts. I suppose I'm trying to get myself out into the world rather than lying on the couch and watching fictional lives on TV. Not that I don't love my Walking Dead show, but I'd like to have more of my own experiences and memories. And then Mama Rose shared and said, I think for me it's the huge non-scale victory that I went from never walking to walking longer than 3 miles. Huge. And I'm like Mama Rose. I'm not a runner, but I can walk till no end. And back when I had originally lost before the regain, I was walking up to 10 miles at a time and doing endurance walking. Now you guys see Pam left. She ain't getting out of that question, okay? Oh, there she is. Sorry I was talking about you. I thought you left. Okay, hold on. That ain't done. But I think I should go to California with Mama Rose, and we should walk from California to New York City, honey. We should walk. We should walk that. We could have like an escort, and we could have them pitch a tent. We could sleep in a tent overnight and stuff. We could be signing autographs and stuff. So
I think, yeah, you know what? I think you should go to California, and then you guys could walk to Texas to meet Connie, because Connie, her sister Connie, she walks like crazy.
Okay.
Her and her husband, and then you guys can go to New York.
We can get Connie. People can join in along the way, but if you can't keep up, then you're getting left behind because we gotta go. So now we're back to Pam.
I'm having a hard time thinking of a question.
Are you really?
I am. I'm so
Okay.
sorry.
We'll give her a pass. Then I know you have another question.
Yeah, I do. As a matter of fact, my question I have is, do you think that many people in the community, let's just limit it to that, do you think that many people fail to recognize transfer addictions within themselves, other than maybe, well, I won't exclude anything. Just do you think that people fail to recognize transfer addiction, at least for a while?
Well, I'll go first on that one, and then the girls can follow. Of course I do. I don't think anyone wants to admit that they have an addiction, you know, at least until they're, quote, caught in it or come out with it or say it. I mean, who wants to admit that they have an addiction? Because as soon as you do, then people start to judge, in my opinion. And it doesn't matter whether it's a drinking addiction, a shopping addiction. If you have a shopping addiction, some people might think, oh, well, that's cool, I can go do this. But then behind your back, they're saying, well, why would he or she be buying that? They don't even have money to buy this. Or look how their kids are dressed, but they go out and spend all this money on this other stuff or on themselves. So I think that it's hard to admit you have an addiction, but like with any addiction, it's admitting that first step, that first notice of it. You have to admit that you have one before you can truly address the addiction. If you just half-assed admitting that you have it, then in your mind it's really not a problem. I guess that's my thought process on it.
Mm-hmm.
Zen, or I'm sorry, Pam?
I mean, yeah, I agree. Like tonight, like I didn't even think originally that my races, like all of my races, would be like an addiction until like you guys brought it up, and I was like, oh wait a minute. But I just didn't see it that way. But I can totally see now that, you know what I mean. So it's like maybe after a little while I might acknowledge it, but yeah, we don't want to acknowledge when we're having some sort of addiction issue.
Yeah. Well, and I think the biggest fear is the fear of judgment. Nobody wants to be judged. People can say, I really don't care what anybody thinks, and maybe to a degree that's true, but nobody wants to be judged, and people do care what people think about them. I'm not getting to the point where it affects their life and it jacks them up, but who wants somebody judging them, talking about them, talking behind their back? Who wants that? It's hurtful, and it's annoying. Alicia, what about you?
Well, first of all, I want to say, Pam, I didn't mean to call you out, but...
No, it's good. It's good. I need that.
Or maybe I did. I don't know. You never know with me. But no, I think, it is hard for us to say, because we can sit here and say, that's not an addiction. I don't have an addiction. I never even thought about the stuff that came up tonight. I never even thought about it maybe an addiction, and stuff. And when I think about addictions, I think, the main ones like alcohol and drugs. That's the ones you go and you get help for and stuff. It is the main, well, and food, I guess, to a point, but you think about those. But when you think about shopping, it's like that's something fun. You go out with people and you go shopping and it's no big deal, and everything else it's no big deal. But I think it is hard to admit that we have an addiction or a transfer addiction. It's hard for me to admit, yeah, I'm not as addicted to food, because I still am addicted to food, but that my addiction would be my cups and my yarn and my, my makeup and stuff. It's hard for us to say, yeah, I'm addicted.
Okay, and Zen, answer your own question.
I would agree that I think that it is sometimes difficult for people to acknowledge a shift. When sometimes they passively pick up a habit or whatever. And the other thing I wanted to just touch on is obsession can be like a lesser degree of the word addiction. And I think that there is a lot of obsession, not just in the weight loss community, but just in general. And that I think that sometimes people don't acknowledge that as being part or in the family of addiction, and that people can become obsessed with other people as well as, things. And I think that is like a whole nother talk show. But you know what I'm saying? I think that we've all seen many cases where, some girl is like obsessed with some guy. And that is part of an addiction too. So I think that sometimes people don't actually recognize that they are living in addiction.
I agree. I think obsessions can become addictions, but I think obsessions usually end, a lot of times, not always. I think obsessions come and go. They either end or they become an addiction. Because when you're obsessed with something, you either stay obsessed with it, and then, in my opinion, it becomes an addiction, or you're over that and you move on to the next thing. And they're short-lived, never really getting to that point of addiction. And that's just my stance on it. It doesn't mean that that's bad.
Yeah. Well, I think that I feel very confident to say that I truly believe that YouTube is obsessed with daddy, and I'm just gonna put that out there. I think we're all obsessed with him, so watch out, Rob.
You know, talking about it, being in all honest, YouTube can be a massive addiction
Yeah.
for a lot of people, and it can actually be to the point where it's not healthy. And that would be a whole nother show. But I do want to read a comment of Diana Rawgirl that she put. But this goes back to watching, actually watching The Naked Truth last night when Sarah Nerd in Oregon was on there, and I haven't really watched her in depth, but she seemed to make a lot of sense from the part of the show. I didn't get to see the whole thing, but from the part I saw, but she was talking about people becoming addicted and their whole life being YouTube, and that you know that's not a good thing. And then Jenny weighed in, or Jennifer weighed in, who's one of the amazing co-hosts over there on that show with Lacey, and she came out and she said right on the show that her and her husband went to an event or they did something, and she specifically left her phone either at home or in the car because she finds herself addicted to constantly checking Facebook, constantly checking YouTube, watching a movie, or watching a YouTube video every spare minute she has. And so Sarah said you need to be really careful with that because your addiction used to be A, and now it's B, where you're constantly obsessed. I mean, you're sitting and thinking at a party, when am I going to be home because I want to check my YouTube page or I want to check my Facebook page. And that's not healthy. And both of the girls agreed to that on the show. And if any way, shape, or form I missaid any of that, then I truly apologize. But I believe, I don't know if any of you guys watch the show, but that was Jennifer's message on that show.
And that was Sarah's message.
Sarah's message, but that is what Jennifer said also, was that she did do that.
Oh yeah, I agree. I think you stated it correctly, Rob.
Yeah, well, you know, the night before on Saturday night, I had a conversation with Sarah, actually, Nerd in Oregon, because she was at the get together, and we were talking about how people are so obsessed with being in the, you know, weight loss community. Like it's an obsession. It's an addiction to, you know, like they can't, like they're in this you know, virtual world, I want to say, instead of being, you know, living their life, having real, like, not that the people online aren't real life friends, but I'm just saying people who live, you know, you don't hang out with people who live near you, or, you know, your friends, like you don't go and hang out with them because you're so consumed over what's going on with so and so and this, you know, this person in the community and that person in the community, they said this, they said that, you know. It's like, I realize that, you know, we get so consumed with the whole community that we don't live our normal lives.
And I think there's so many factors to that, and it really is another show. And I know we did a show like that before, but we really didn't get into the depths of it because I think, to be honest, a lot of us were afraid to say certain things because we were worried about backlash and would people think we're judging or something like that. But we're all a little bit more familiar with each other, and we're all entitled to our viewpoints and opinions, and that will have to be a show that I think would be worth working in. You know, obsession with YouTube or something to this effect. We can talk about that after the show. Diana Rawgirl said, here's my take on addiction and exercise, food, or whatever. I was on super terrific eating path, exercising, and weight training, all in the comfort of my own home. I am an all-or-nothing kind of person mentality, as I think many are. That being said, then the crash. 2 weeks before Thanksgiving of 2013, my husband lost his 26-year job, and all of my good eating and my role with exercise and eating good just flew out the window. And you know why? Because my brain was in another shocking and instant path of, oh my God, now what? And so on and so forth. He's still not back to work of any kind. It's not okay in my world mentally. I know I need to buckle up, but my heart and my head is not into being right right now. Sorry for all the info. You know what? We're glad you shared, and there's so many people that may not have the exact same circumstances as you, but that are in a place like you, but maybe with different circumstances, so to say. So thank you for sharing that. Then?
I just wanted to say, Diane, my heart goes out to you, and I want you to, do the best you can, because this time after the first 18 months after weight loss surgery is a time that you will not get back. So I know that you have to push through, the best way you can, and just try to maybe distract yourself with some exercise. I just encourage you to do that. And it won't change your home situation, but it maybe will help you release some of that stuff that's going on. So I'm praying for you and thinking of you.
Michael BSG weighed in and said, "Love you, Pam, Taco Bell." Now, see, Pam is not the one that brought up Taco Bell this week, though. That was Alicia that brought that up. So, Alicia, that's on you.
Hashtag Taco Bell.
Right. Michael BSG said, and stop by Houston and pick me up on the walk. Rose said, a daddy mama walk. I like it. Rose said she might be addicted to thrifting. Maybe. Not sure. Shadow Girl 1 says, sometimes I worry I have an addiction to social media. I had to cut back. I used to use multiple apps. Now I just stick to YouTube and Instagram for the most part. But even those two can be overwhelming, can be an overwhelming feeling like I have to keep up with everybody's videos and pictures. And that is so true. And that's why we need to have an episode where we're really being upfront and honest and not afraid to say things wrong if people's going to think that we're, being a dick or a bitch or something like that, but stating how we truly feel on the topic, but yet not judging people, just saying what we've seen or experiences. So that was, thank you everybody for weighing in tonight. That was amazing. I think since we're talking about transfer addictions and we have a few minutes left, I think a good way to end the show would be for everybody to say something to the viewers, whatever you want to say, whatever point you want to get across on this particular topic, because maybe something that we say right now may help someone realize that they have some form of an addiction that maybe they want to start directing a little bit of attention to, even if to bring it down just a notch if they're not ready to fully stop that, but maybe ease off that addiction so that you don't replace the one you currently have with another one. Let's start with Alicia. Alicia?
Well, I think that, first of all, I think that, we have to really think about where, like, what is it? Like, obviously, we had a food addiction, and then, and that started off because, obviously, we wouldn't be the weight we are now, or were, if it wasn't for our addiction for food. But there's something that, maybe we need to really focus on, whether it be therapy or, just work on ourselves in order to figure out why it is that we have this addiction, what we're longing for and stuff. I know for me that is, like, there's something in there that that's not satisfying me, so that's why I go to different addictions. I think it's just working at the core problem.
Okay. And Pam?
Be open with yourself and don't be too judgmental of yourself. Like me tonight, just realizing I have all these addictions now, like the running and stuff. Just like don't, if you see these things starting to happen, like just don't freak out and just kind of evaluate the situation. Like, is this particular addiction going to harm me in any way? Is it going to harm my family? With, like, if it's financial or, if it's your own health, like the alcohol or drugs or something like that. We have these compulsive behaviors because there's something else inside going on. And like with what Alicia said, like, don't be afraid to try therapy if you think you need it. If you think that you're doing this because you can't figure out what's going on in your life that's making you do this. So just don't be hard on yourself and stuff. That's pretty much it.
Okay. Then?
I guess I would agree with what Pam and Alicia has said as far as I believe that a lot of addiction or obsession things start from something unfulfilled, whether that started as a kid or as an adult, or and I think they also say a lot of them start on the basis of a post-traumatic stress. Different addictions can develop. So I mean, I don't know. I can't recall a post-traumatic stress for myself. Just saying, I'm not trying to be funny, but I laugh when I'm nervous. So yeah, I guess I'm just trying to get to the point where I say, okay, I need to go maybe and talk to someone to find that core reason. And I would encourage anyone else out there who thinks they might have or is struggling with some type of addiction, whether it be food or otherwise, trying to find out the root of the problem, I guess, would be a good place to start to keep from moving from one thing to another, transferring, and then just realizing that when you get to wherever it is that you think you want to be, that you're still not happy because now you want this. And sometimes I think it leads to that place where you're just never happy. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So that's my thought. Try to, heal yourself.
Okay, and I'm going to end it by saying that I think the most important thing you can do is keep it real. Be true to yourself and be honest with yourself. I'm going to share a quick story when I used to go to Weight Watchers. And Progresso had came out with this soup where if you had half of the can, it was 0 points. Okay, so everybody was all over the Progressive soup, right? Or whatever it's called. So then the thing was is if you ate the whole can, you had to consider it a point. So there got into this big debate in the class. Instead of talking about things that were important, people were saying, well, what if I ate half of this can of soup and then waited for 20 minutes and ate the other half of the can of soup? Finally, the lecturer was, she's very nice, but she finally said, you guys, let's be honest with ourselves. None of us got here from eating too much soup. So why are we spending time on this? And it was true. No one got there from eating too much soup. And time was being spent and wasted. So that whole story I say because we have to keep it real. Everybody in there knew that if you're going to eat the whole can, count it a point. If you were going to eat half of it, you didn't have to count it, but you didn't wait 20 minutes and eat the rest of it. So if you do things like that, you're just cheating yourself. You're not being honest with yourself, and it's just going to hold you back in a sense. Not just about the soup, but on topics like that is my point. So that's what I'm saying. Just be true to yourself and keep it real. Without further ado, we are out of time tonight. Alicia, do you have anything to add real quick as our producer?
No, just that, now I think that the whole management has gotten everything down with you, Rob, and we're good now, right?
Yeah. Because they had me signing autographs tonight till 10 minutes before the show started, and then I was rushed to get here. So you guys, just kidding. But next week we're going to have an amazing show for you, and we do have a set topic, but that may be scheduled to change. We're going to have a talk after the show. But I'm going to tell you that next week our scheduled topic for January 26th is eating disorders, why me? But if we do switch that out, it will be another amazing topic, and that one's going to just be pushed to a later date. But we'll let you know midweek, or we'll let you know midweek, end of the week, what the topic is going to be. So without further ado, thank you so much for everybody for watching the show. Thank you for joining us here on Real Talk. You guys are what keeps the show going, and we greatly appreciate your questions, your comments, your suggestions. Thank you so much. Have an amazing week.
Thank you.
Good night.